What do you
I've been
recommend?
told
for
never
grinder?
get back a container.
How much do you want to spend?
So I'm like, "Ah,
I'm already spending 2,500.
I do a Mazer Mini, which you can get for like 4 to 6.
heavy fixing."
Nice grinder, and you can
So
set it
does
for
make
whatever you
like
want.
dust?
Yeah,
Oh,
What are we talking about?
yeah, that's our.
coffee grinder.
Oh,
I'm a
That's-
coffee snob. People don't know. The reason why I drink energy drinks is because I don't feel like making myself coffee all the time.
sister
Can't drink
recommended
coffee. You still have to
specific
find me
kind
the
of
pen that'll
grinder,
be okay on my
a bird
stomach.
grinder. Is
That's
that the right
like,
term?
Yeah. You don't drink
Did
coffee?
not take her up on that.
it hurts my stomach. Just
Makes
like,
you
I need
regular.
something that's really low
Weight on.
acid.
Yeah.
Like maybe
What do you
cold brew
think?
or something. I don't
Cold
know.
brew? Why don't you
Wayne's
try
way
to
to
go?
go.
What-
Try our
the one
cold
that
brew.
you just said, what's that grinder?
Mazer Mini.
Oh, that's
Mazer
good.
Mini.
Mazer Mini.
M-A-Z or S?
M-A-Z-Z.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Where do you get your whole bean coffee?
Yeah.
I get my whole bean
Yeah.
coffee from Miami.
Well, if it's really warm, you should like
Yep,
get
I
sleepy.
ordered it. They roast it. They said.
I'm pretty warm
What
because it's
brand,
humid
what
and
kind?
I'm wearing this
Zara.
cardigan.
Where's it from?
They're
Yep.
from
Whenever you're ready.
Are we ready to go?
So,
Okay.
so you have to be careful.
All the
You're talking about.
members of the Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department have returned, so we will begin our meeting. We will start with a roll call. Director Canales,
Here.
Director Kelly here, Director Gibbs,
Here.
Director Talon,
Here.
Director Moore,
Here.
Director Rosenquist.
Here.
And last but not least, Director Bob.
Here,
Welcome, Director Bob.
What's your last name?
it's Bopp, B-O-P-P.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know you, I thought you were gonna be approved after this meeting. I didn't know it was before.
Yeah.
No
Time
problem.
worked out.
I'll have to correct it. It's all good.
Okay, and Manager Tracy is here. CFO Kluge is not here, but
Yeah, she's in Utica at a baseball tournament with her son. so.
you're gonna speak on her behalf.
Is that MLD related? or- No, I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
No, I think it's school related or,
Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of the PMLD Board held on April 29, 2021 are approved and placed on file among the public records in the MLD
Make
office.
a motion.
Motion by Director Rosenquist, seconded by Director Moore. Roll call, Director Canales?
Yes.
Director Kelly, yes. Director Gibbs?
Yes.
Director Talon?
Yes.
Director Bott?
Yes.
Director Moore?
yes.
Director Rosenquist?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Okay. Next is the financial report, which is presented by the MLD manager, William Tracy.
For June 2021, our revenues were good. They exceeded our expenses, which is good. They were actually an improvement over last year. Last year, we were impacted by mild winter and COVID-19, which hurt. But pretty much the COVID-19 has gone by the wayside at this point. So things are looking better in that category. In case you hadn't heard, on June 24th, the governor terminated his moratorium on shutoffs for customers. The legislature voted in a 180-day grace period for people to get their bills up to date, which expires on December 21st. So we started about 2 weeks ago shutting people off. And if they get shut off, they have basically 3 options: pay their bill, they can do a self-certification that COVID-19 was a problem, and they have to sign that certification. If they do that, we have to turn them back on, and we cannot turn them off till December 22nd, supposedly giving them the time to pay up. However, they can get penalties and late fees attached to their bills during that time frame. The third option is to do a deferred payment plan, which they have to pay the current month and then pay something from the previous amount to pay it up by that date if they can. What that does is it turns their power back on, and any penalties or late fees that were applied after the governor's ended his moratorium would be removed and stay off their bill until they paid it up. Yes, Mayor?
Man,
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, go right ahead.
thanks. How many people are we talking? How many households are we talking about?
We're probably talking about, we were talking today, probably about 100 plus or minus.
Okay,
Even while we were in the moratorium, we had been told by the state to be somewhat aggressive with them. We can't turn them off, but have them pay.
Okay.
A lot of them were under the delusion that the governor was going to bail them out, which was not going to do, unfortunately. However, the federal government sort of has done that to a certain degree. They have extended the HEAP program, which typically ends in end of March, beginning of April. They've extended it to the 31st of August next month.
Okay.
They can get emergency heat, which is a $490 allotment. There's also another program that the federal government's employed, which is also managed by social services. I'm not too familiar with it, but it's called ERAP, Renters Assistance Program. And it will help them if they're eligible with their rent and their utility payments.
And what, a couple of different questions, if you don't mind. How much are we talking about in terms of the deficit or the back payments?
Well, it depends. There's some that owe a couple of hundred. There are some that owe $10,000. There's at least one landlord that's up in the 10,000 category, but they're promising to get it down here in the next 2 months.
Can you just send that? Can you send that out?
Well, it's covered under privacy.
I'm not talking about individual households. I'm just saying, can we just get the number value of what's like in arrears?
I could try to get you.
Okay.
Just because it changes from day to day.
I understand that. That's understandable.
But
And the second question is, are the people that are the most impacted, maybe not be the landlord, maybe not the landlords, but the tenants and the people who are really struggling, how are they being made aware of these programs that can help them?
Well, the HEAP people have been notifying their people. We also sent a letter, notifications out in the last billing, telling them that they could call in. But I'll give you an example of one individual this week we were dealing with. We had called them 4 times and talked to their answering machine 4 times since June. We sent them a number of letters of disconnect notices. They never responded, never called to us. The only time we finally got their attention was when we turned them off. Mm-hmm. And instead of calling us, they instead called the Public Service Commission to ask the Public Service Commission to get them turned back on. And they said, well, we're not doing a deferred payment, but we might be interested. This individual owed $1,400. We might be interested in paying maybe $10 or $15 a month. At that rate, it'd take about 10 years to get back. Mm-hmm. The individual was actually eligible for HEAP. All they had to do was call the local HEAP office, and they would have got an emergency allotment of HEAP, and the bill would have paid off by now.
Sure.
But I was on a conference call 2 weeks ago with the HEAP staff, or a number of utilities. We were talking to the HEAP staff. One of the things they brought up that they noticed is a lot of people that are eligible for HEAP were not calling in for the emergency HEAP because the governor said they couldn't be turned off if they didn't pay, so they wouldn't bother.
Sure.
And I know the Clinton County one, if you're in the system, all you have to do is pick up the phone and call them. You don't have to go down to them if you're already in their system and make the arrangements, and then they call us to confirm things, and it's done. But it's a challenge.
So it sounds like it's also like a public service announcements or some type of public education campaign that we could potentially leverage through our social campaigns or press.
Well, I think
media.
if now that we can turn them off, now they're getting interested.
Sure.
Unfortunately, and I mean it doesn't figure, but you got to do it the hard way, and it can't be done the easy way. And of course, we've had a number of people who we found who weren't also paying their utilities, weren't paying their rent, and they're moving out. One individual called us and said, "You turn off my power. Can you turn it off for 3 or 4 days so I can move out? I won't pay you anything, but I would like my power. Make it easier for me to move out." We didn't turn it back on. So we're gonna have to eat those costs,
Sure. Okay.
unfortunately.
So individuals who qualified for HEAP but never took advantage of it, can it all be done retroactively for them or no? Okay.
Well, they need to get it now, and then they can call in one more time. If they get it, well, to this month, so if they get it tomorrow, then they can call the next month. It ends on 31 August, and then there's a 10-week hiatus before the next program starts again for the 2021 to 2022 season, which will begin about the second week in November. So, anybody we've talked to and we sent letters to, we've told them, you're on here, you're eligible, they have to make the call. Unfortunately, we can't call for them. But,
Thank you.
Any other discussion on financial?
I just want to go over one more thing so everybody's aware.
Sure.
I know the new council's not aware of this probably. Have you ever heard the term Rex execs?
I sure haven't.
Okay. This program started in 2017 by the governor's office. He did it through the Public Service Commission and NYSERDA to avoid going through the legislature because he probably would not get it passed. What it is for the state to collect supplemental funds to help renewable energy projects. The ZECs is zero emission credits, and it's to pay for keeping 4 nuclear power plants in Western New York online till 2030. And it's to pay the difference because the owner was losing money so that he at least breaks even and keeps those on because it would help with the state's greenhouse gas emissions. The RECs are tier 1 RECs. These are for supplemental funding to support build new solar and wind farms that have been built since 2017. The ZECs, as of June, for a 6-month period, we've paid nearly $1,043,000. The RECs we've paid is $128,529. Next month, we're getting additional RECs added onto our bills, what they're calling tier 2 RECs. The state wants supplemental funds for wind farms and solar farms that were built prior to 2017 that they can provide to the owners to entice them not to shut them down and keep them online. I mean, the RECs and ZECs are theoretically, they're taxes, but because they didn't go through the legislature, they can't be called taxes. So that's the title they came up with. So far this year, we paid $1,172,394. We will probably be close to $3 million by the end of the year. And it gets added on to everybody's bill.
And every utility in the state pays that, correct?
That is correct.
Wow.
And there's other stuff out there that's coming down the pike that we're going to get added on as well.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding the financial standing? All right. I will read the resolution then. Be it resolved that the financial report as read is hereby ordered, received, and placed on file among the public records in the MLD office. Moved by Councilor Gibbs, seconded by Councilor Rosenquist. Roll call, Director Canales.
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Gibbs.
Yes.
Director Talon.
Yes.
Director Bach.
Yes.
Director Moore.
Yes.
Director Rosenquist.
Yes.
Okay, that's a unanimous decision. Let me just remind the council that if you'd like more information about these items, you can always refer to the meeting supplemental information that is provided to us before every meeting. So much appreciated, Bill.
Except Councilor Bob or Director Bob doesn't have that.
No, she doesn't, but I'll email it to her just
Okay.
as soon as this meeting's over. All right, so next item on the agenda is departmental reports. That's also presented by our manager, William Tracy.
There's a pretty long list of work in progress and completed. It's pretty much self-explanatory what's on there. Unless somebody has a question, we'll move on to the next one.
I actually do.
Mhm.
Okay. I see that on the list of work in progress, you have 3 electric vehicle charging stations that are going to go in by somewhere near where the farmer's market's located, or
That is correct.
where are they going to be located?
If you drive in, there's a grassy area to the left there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they're gonna be put on the edge of the pavement there.
Okay.
We're we have to build a box, a switching box that we're in the process of building right now. And as soon as we get that done and a few other things, then we'll start putting them down, hopefully next month we're looking at. Right now, it's my very busy season, so we're doing a lot. The guys that do that are also tied up working in the substations right now, doing a whole load of different things.
Okay.
Okay. Next item would be the IEEP program, an update on that program. Mr. Tracy?
Again, the list is pretty self-explanatory. If there's any questions, most of the projects have been completed. There's a few in progress.
Any questions for Mr. Tracy on IEEP program?
I just wondering, are they still doing the rebates on energy efficient appliances, or is that?
They're still doing that. They keep changing them though. It's based on what NYSERDA does, like hot water heaters used to be on there once upon a time because you could buy the cheaper one or you could buy the more expensive one, which actually saved energy. Well, the state put out new laws and mandates that did away with those cheaper ones. So you could only buy the more expensive ones. When that happened, NYSERDA dropped their rebate. IEP dropped theirs as well because they follow what NYSERDA does.
Okay, thanks.
But yeah, the other appliances, yes, it's still there.
Very good.
Are there any other areas in your department that you wish to talk about today?
Nope.
Mr. Tracy, all right, thank you. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the City of Plattsburgh wheeling policy. The resolution states that the City of Plattsburgh wheeling policy has been reviewed and is approved by the MLD Board. May I have a motion to?
Are we discussing or are we taking a motion first?
We're going to take a motion first, and then we're going to discuss, and then we're going to vote. Okay, Councilor Canales made the motion. Do we have a second? Councilor Gibbs?
So,
Discussion.
yeah, I did not see this until this afternoon because I didn't get a chance to read the agenda. So we've never had this before in the city, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so when I go through this, and I'm looking at policy, it says the policy covers key areas of concern in considering the feasibility of an interconnection of a renewable project to the PMLD. Can you explain, Bill, what kind of renewable project would this be?
That would be
What
like
we-
if a wind farm or solar farm wanted to tie into our system and use it as the conduit to get onto the New York ISO transmission lines across the rest of the state.
Or water too, right? I mean, if water, like,
No, this is strictly electrical.
it would, okay.
What do you mean by water?
Hydro, that's what I'm, yes.
It would be any electricity, any type of generated
Anything.
electricity.
Yes, solar, wind.
Has there been an interest in, has anybody approached the city about this? Has there been an interest in this, or?
There was one a few months ago, but that apparently died off.
There was one interest months ago that died off, but,
The
okay,
mayor
so,
felt that this needed to be done because these commitments are 20 to 30-year contracts. So all the liabilities and issues needs to be sorted out the best way possible before the city would enter into these, because like I said, it's a long-term agreement. Once you sign it, you don't get out of it.
right. So I guess I'm really confused about why we would want to do this.
Possible, is it a revenue producing for the city?
It could, well, it wouldn't be for the city, it would be for municipal lighting.
So the city wouldn't actually benefit from it.
Unless the solar farm was built inside the city limits.
Okay.
It'd be a benefit to the ratepayer. essentially, or the potential benefit to the ratepayer.
Okay, so it would be beneficial to the ratepayer, wouldn't be beneficial to the city necessarily. Why would we want to do this? It would be a burden on, it would be a operational burden presumably upon MLD. You would be responsible for it, you'd be maintaining
As
it
long as I'm here, I would be.
as
yes.
well. I mean, I say you, but
Yeah,
it's the
30 years
collective.
Here, but yeah,
I guess
unless I'm crutches.
so I guess that's what I'm trying to understand, why we would move forward, and we've never done it. There's not a explicit benefit to us monetarily. It would be a stress on MLD. I'm not really seeing an upside here. Counselors, am I missing anything?
Well, aren't we totally surrounded by NICEAG? I mean, they don't need us to transmit power all around us, right?
And when I would come into play, if somebody built something within the city. We had a situation outside the city. They had looked at us connecting to our system, but the cost was too much, I believe, and they chose to go with NICEAG. The investor-owned utilities, the NICEAGs, the Con Edisons, have to do this by law. The municipals, there's only one in the state that has even attempted to do this. And some days they regret it, but they've done it. The big problem, I guess, concern with that is, what is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission going to do? They're constantly changing their rules and regulations. And over a 30-year period, a lot of things could change. Something that could be profitable could be a nightmare towards the end of this. I mean, the bigger utilities, they can absorb because they have the millions of dollars of reserves. A little municipal doesn't.
Okay.
It's something that, if it would come, it would have to be explored. And this would lay out the initial guidelines to explore it.
Right, and so this other municipality you said did this, and now you're getting the sense that they regret it? How big are they compared to us?
They're smaller than us.
Smaller than us?
Yes, and they took 100 megawatt wind farm,
Okay.
tied it to their transmission system. They almost got hit with heavy requirements from FERC after they had signed in, but they were able to find a loophole, which I don't think exists anymore, to get around that.
Now, what is FERC again?
Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. They oversee, through the North American Reliability Energy Corporation, the running of all the transmission lines in the USA.
Okay.
So when you get involved in one of these agreements, there's usually about 3 different agreements that have to be signed. One between the utility and whoever the developer is, then one with the utility developer and the connection point onto whose transmission line you're connected to, with, in our case, New York Power Authority.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a final one between all 4 players of the New York ISO connected to their system.
Wow.
So yes, there's a lot of legal work and engineering work that has to go into this.
So if this were something that somehow managed to materialize in Plattsburgh, this and some kind of energy, whatever farm, the hydroelectrics, solar, whatever, it's clear it's not really going to be a benefit to us as a city, but would it be a benefit to the organization that wants to do it? Does it make it more profitable, more valuable? Does it make?
What it provides to them is a way to get onto the, from wherever they're building the renewable energy thing, to get onto the grid. That's their only advantage. Because if they generate the electricity, they have to get on the New York State grid to be able to sell it.
Oh,
So they wouldn't be selling it to us necessarily,
I see.
but they need to get onto our system so we can get them onto the
So
power.
they can be legitimized to
Yes.
sell.
And there's different ways that can be done, but it's usually 3 to 4 players involved.
Okay.
So there's a lot of engineering that has to go into this, and a lot of legal documents. I've seen some of the documents, they're like 60 to 100 pages long.
Is that something we would have to pay for, or is that something that the?
Typically, all that, as I state in there, would be paid by the developer. That would be all his cost. If we had to pay anything, then it's of no advantage to us. The trick would be is try to foresee into the future what could happen and try to get that built into the long-range contract. Because like I say, things can change, and
Are we would we then be responsible for any infrastructure improvements or infrastructure development, or is that still?
That would be under our control, but they would have to pay us to do that. We would hire an engineering firm to do the work for us.
Yeah.
And we would hire the contractor. They would have to pay us to do that. Theoretically, everything up front would be the developer's cost as part of the project. The trick comes in is the revenue you get. Is that revenue going to be enough to sustain you 20, 30 years out if the federal government changes the regulations? I guess it depends what you get written into these contracts with the lawyers, what gets negotiated in. That's the only drawback that I can foresee in this problem.
Oh, like changes to the regulation that may.
Well, yes, like for example,
additional costs.
The federal FERC is constantly lowering the bar, as I call it, on different criteria. For example, at one point, you had to be at 300,000 volts on the transmission line to fall under their rules. Eventually, it dropped to 230,000, then it dropped to 115, and at the 115 level, that's where they caught us. Over 100 megawatts. It used to be 300 megawatts, but over 100 megawatts. If we go over that in the wintertime, you only have to do it once, and you're under their rules forever after that. So it is a consideration. If you don't feel comfortable making it a wheeling policy, maybe you could call it a MLD instruction. It's sort of a roadmap of what we should do. I'm not always going to be here in the future, and whoever comes after me may need something as a guideline to walk them through. And we need to go through all those steps to see, is it really a good deal for us, or is it going to be lead weight around the city's neck?
Well, it just seems like a tremendous burden with no real benefit to us as a city.
The only thing is the revenue that you could derive, and it depends a lot about where it connects. Does it go through substations? Does it go through step-up transformers? Does it go on the transmission lines? The project I was talking about, they wanted basically 20 feet of our transmission line to get us to get them onto the New York Power Authority transmission line.
That's the solar one that was up on Route 3, correct?
Correct.
Or Tom Miller.
Tom.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the revenue would, it probably would have been peanuts for that. Though we might have got a whole new substation out of the deal because they'd have to rebuild the whole thing in order to make that work.
What's the revenue based on?
It's based on where they connect, the distance they travel over the line, whether they're going through substations, transformers. There's a whole formula package. I talked to the individual that does that, who's familiar with our system. He would just have to go to the point of injection and to the point of withdrawal, and he could run the calculations and have it figured out in a matter of hours. But each one is a different situation, so you can't. Is
it at all based on volume, or is it just based on the points of the system that?
I think it would also be based on volume, the kilowatts, and the distance you're going to go cover, and what equipment you're going to go through. The rates keep changing. See, they didn't want to go through our transformers because it was cheaper to go on the other side of our transformers and have one of their transformers step it up to 115 and then connect to the power authority. So.
The only way I see this feasible is if we did a baseline piggyback rate for them and based on the kilowatt, the percentage thereafter.
It's already set formulas out there. You're kind of tied into the way they're doing it right now.
Yeah.
A lot of it's overseen by the feds.
To give a little bit of background, earlier in the year, my office was approached by some folks who wanted to do hydropower in the city, generate electricity, and rather than building their own line out to connect to NYSEG line, piggyback on our line through some type of policy like this. The benefit to the city would be there would be a revenue piece. I say to the city, but the benefit to MLD would be there's a revenue piece to it. But then also on the flip side of that, there's all the hurdles and the steps that we would need to go through. I think fundamentally though, what we're seeing in New York State is the increase of not only renewable energy generation outside of the city. But there's this major transmission line that's trying to be built from north to south through, maybe not through the city, but certainly north to south, pretty damn close to the city. So, you know, whether or not this is something that that MLD wants to explore or not, you know, I mean.
I recommend not making it a policy, but making it maybe an instruction that we put on file. If it comes up that somebody has a roadmap, because I've already done the research of what needs to be done, and it could be a starting point for somebody, because you don't want to commit until you check everything off on there, the engineering, the costs, the legal ramifications, the ramifications with the federal government and so forth and so on, to see if you even want to go down that route.
So
Now,
are you?
based on that recommendation from Manager Tracy, I would suggest that we vote no on the wheeling policy tonight. But we ask that for the October meeting of this board, that something is prepared for us more along the lines that Manager Tracy just recommended.
Well, I would just change the title on it.
Okay.
Just change it from what it's there right now to MLD operating instruction.
Can we?
And really, I don't really think, unless, Mayor, what do you think? I don't think the council needs to even vote on it. If it's an operating instruction within MLD.
I mean, like, that sounds operational. That sounds like an operational decision rather than a policy that we're putting forth.
So we should vote no on this wheeling policy and then allow Manager Tracy to.
I'll change the title. I'll bring it back in October. The new title.
It's like an operational guideline then?
Yeah, it's operational instruction.
That would be my recommendation to the board.
It does, I mean, I wouldn't tear it up. I mean, yeah, like I said, I may not be around in 5-6 years, who knows? But it leads a guideline then for whoever comes after me who may not understand the process. It gives them an idea how to proceed with it. Or if any of the councilors or the mayor changes in the next 4 or 5 years, and I ask the question, it's there.
Yeah, like I said, it was more pressing early on, and then kind of who knows where projects go. And then, you know, when talking with Bill about the project on Tom Miller Road, it seemed to be like, oh, this could be something a little bit more to explore outside of what I was already approached with within the city. So
I have one additional question for Manager Tracy regarding this resolution. And does an arrangement like this create any liabilities for the city and reliability issues for the city?
Well, it shouldn't create reliability, but it could be, there could be penalties in there. I haven't got through all the legal jargon and everything, but I would guess if something went down on the city side and the renewable energy couldn't get their power out there, there's probably some kind of penalty or something built into these agreements. I mean, you get a room full of lawyers, I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Right, it would seem to me it would have to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have 4 teams of lawyers, one for the city, one for the developer, one for the New York Power Authority, one for New York ISO. So you probably will have 8 to 12 lawyers in there going through this thing and working out the details after all the engineers get to go through it and work out the details.
Right, okay.
And then all the legal details have to be worked out.
motion to withdraw.
Okay. All in favor of withdrawing this resolution from the agenda tonight?
Aye.
Indicate by saying aye. Sounded unanimous, so that'll be removed. Sounds like, Manager Tracy, we'd like to have you come back in October with your alternate proposal, which is.
Yeah, it'll just be a title change.
Yeah.
Everything else would stay the same in there.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, on to item number 5. SUNY Plattsburgh requests authorization to install light pole banners.
Motion. To make a motion.
Oh, motion, second, okay. Discussion.
Just a quick question. Who made the second? I didn't see.
Canal.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Director Canales.
Shall I?
Okay.
Has anybody looked at the maps?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody not looked at the maps? I got an extra copy or two here. Well, I know you have it.
Yeah, I didn't
So
look at
just
them yet.
That would be.
I brought an extra copy or two with me.
Share.
Let's see where it is. Anybody else?
Oh, wait, it's on
It's
her.
basically in front of the Grand K Library on Beacon Street.
Okay. Oh, it's nearby me.
The SUNY, man? Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't want to.
Okay.
No.
Only because it came through my office, the request from SUNY Plattsburgh, they wanted to essentially install additional banners similar to the ones that they have now. First on Cornelia Street, right alongside of Sable Hall. Sable, right? That's the hall over there. And also on Beekman. The concern, I presented the plan to Bill, Mr. Tracy here regarding the installation of the banners. The poles on Cornelia they're not sufficient enough. There's the infrastructure is too far low. It hangs a little bit too far low on that, and the banners would have been about 15 feet, between 10 and 15 feet off the ground.
Actually, we were like 5 or 6 feet off the ground, unfortunately.
And so
we get picked off.
Right, and so it wasn't sufficient to host them there. However, the banners or the poles on Beekman, who are solely owned by the city of Plattsburgh, are sufficient. We presented it back to SUNY. They said 100% we would like to put banners up there. These are just for SUNY Plattsburgh. And it's, one of those things where they have banners up and felt that it was appropriate to expand their kind of.
The only reason this came to the
presence.
council is that I believe the charter, at least the old one is, I'm assuming it's in the new one as well, says no advertisement on city power poles. Now, we allow them to put them on the streetlight poles, and the council many years ago approved that along Broad Street and up on Ruger. So this is just, they're adding to that area on Beekman. It's in front of their buildings, so there shouldn't be a problem. The only thing on the poles are street lights, so there's plenty of room to put the banners on there.
I'm just curious, Bill, on your map, those numbers are the numbers of,
The poles themselves, yes, those are the pole numbers.
those are PMLD numbers.
Yes, yes, sir. That's,
Okay.
yeah, we don't, a lot of the poles of the city are joint owned between us and Verizon. So in order to do what they wanted to do originally, they would also have to approach Verizon with that.
Oh, okay.
And that could be problematic for them.
These are all city owned.
These are all ours, so there's not a problem with these.
Okay.
And the two on Cornelia, there are poles that support the traffic light.
Okay.
That's the only thing on there, so there's plenty of room on there to
Yeah.
hang them on the corner there.
Okay. Any other discussion?
How tall are the poles on Beekman?
They're probably 30 feet.
30 feet, so how high would the banner be?
They'd be like they are on Route 9. They'd be about 10 to 12 feet off the ground.
Okay, I'm just thinking back to that time that I found that banner that I gave to you that
Yeah.
come off one of the Discover Plattsburgh ones was down on the sidewalk.
Well,
It's just like
sometimes the wind tears them up. We had one case of those Hometown Hero banners on the oval. Somebody was driving a box truck. They cut the driveway too short and went up the curb,
Oh,
and they
geez.
picked the banner off that way. But we've had 2 or 3 that have been taken out by the wind. We've gotten replacements, except for one we're waiting on. We haven't put it back on those poles because we felt those poles were too exposed to the weather. So we're gonna put them on other locations so they're less exposed, so we don't have that, because the rest of the banners have been doing
Yeah.
good so far.
Man after man.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call. Counselor Canals?
Yes.
Director Canals?
Yes.
Director Kelly, yes. Director Gibbs?
Yes.
Director Talent?
Yes,
Director Bach?
Yes.
Director Moore?
Yes,
Director Rosenquist?
Yes.
Unanimous. Okay, item number 6 is bid requests. rather than read this, I'll take a motion to
Motion to waive the reading of the
waive the
resolution.
reading. Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we'll waive the reading. Discussion? Any discussion?
On the waiving of the reading?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Chris. We must vote on that first. A vote to waive the reading.
Yep.
Aye.
All in favor? Yep.
Okay, so discussion. Any discussion on the bids? Okay, roll call. Director Canales?
Yes.
Director Kelly, yes. Director Gibbs?
Yes.
Director Talon?
Yes.
Director Moore?
Yes.
Director Bob?
Yes.
Director Rosenquist?
Yes. We'll get the order.
We'll mix them up.
Keep everybody on their toes. Mike, thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the monthly write-offs, which Manager Tracy has highlighted for us. I'll take a motion to waive the reading. on
Motion to
this.
waive the reading of the resolution.
And a second by Director Canales. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, discussion? Okay, roll call. Director Canales? Director Kelly, yes. Director Gibbs?
Yes.
Director Talon?
Yes.
Director Bach?
Yes.
Director Moore?
Yes.
Director Rosenquist?
Yes.
Is there any old business to go before this board? Any new business?
I believe that there's a discussion on
Green Street.
a light pole or something.
Green Street,
Oh,
yes. It's been
right.
requested that we have a discussion with Mr. Tracy, since he would be involved, on the possibility of moving the utility poles on Green Street a little bit to the west, I believe, so that that street could be widened and possibly a sidewalk built there.
Anything is possible down there, but what we really need at this point is a site plan of what is actually planned down there. I know Mr. Ruff has sent an email out to at least 5 of you, 6 of you, describing all the steps that need to be taken. Because there's a lot of different discussions on that intersection, whether it should be realigned, not realigned, and a lot of what stuff that needs to be decided would also decide what we would do with the pole line, whether we keep it above ground, put it underground. One of the things we have to find out if it's underground is there's an old flume system that cuts across Bridge Street there. It started up at Pond Street, and then it went down. There used to be some mill down in that area behind those buildings there that are on Bridge Street. They called it the Irish Mill. Well, I guess it's like 80 years ago. But part of that flume, we know as of 20 years ago, still exists. It's pretty hefty with concrete and everything. What we don't know is when the street got redone around 2004, 2005 timeframe by DOT, we don't know if they were able to puncture that or not. MLD tried in the early 2000 period to get street lighting through there. The concrete was so thick, we couldn't get it through, so we had to go to plan B down there. So there's all these questions that need to be resolved, and Mr. Ruff is working on getting an engineering firm in to do a study and look at the very aspects, decide which way the traffic should flow down. There should be two-way traffic, one-way traffic, and then all these questions along this. Once that is all resolved, then we could come back and say, okay, this is the way we think we could do it. This is what we think the cost will be. Right now, it'd be sort of premature at this point because there's a lot of unknowns that I don't know, and there's no real plan as to how that road will be dealt with, whether it be widened one way or widened the other way, or will it be shifted altogether. So, but we will be working with the city and on how to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, anything can be done. As long as you don't have plenty of money, I guess, to do it, if you want to say something like that, but
Any
we
other?
try to do it economically, let's put it that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Bill. Any other discussion on this topic?
No, I think that's it.
Is there any other new business that folks would like to bring before the board tonight? Okay, finally, we ask, are there any members of the public who would like to come address the board? Okay, seeing none, then we'll take a motion to adjourn
Second.
by Counselor Gibbs, seconded by Counselor Rosenquist. I'm sorry, Director Rosenquist and Director Gibbs.
Okay.
I apologize. So let's take a roll call. Director Canales? Director Kelly, yes. Director Gibbs?
Yes.
Director Talon?
Yes.
Director Bach?
Yes.
Director Moore? Director Rosenquist?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, folks.
5:30.
Thank you.